this is going to be worth the price of admission. Here we go.
In this episode, I chat with a guy born into motorsport.
I was probably spent more weekends with my parents than with my mates, so, but it's cool, we're quite a tight family.
And I chat to a guy who is a motorsport born again.
I'd like to think of myself as being a bit more calculated competitive.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Grille. Now generally in motorsport there tends to be two kinds of drivers. Those that start, well, out of nappies and karting and go right through the grades. And then there's the other ones that want to jump in and do it later on in life. I'm about to chat to a guy that seems to have dipped his toes into the pool of motorsport. In fact, it might not quite be accurate. More jumped in the deep end. His name is the Scud. Brett Rudd, thanks very much for your time. They call you the Scud. What on earth is that all about?
Oh, it's just a name that was thought up by my brother-in-law actually. It rhymed with Rudd, so it's pretty simple. I guess Scud, they're supposed to go fast, supposed to hit a few targets, so yeah.
And that's the thing with the Utes, because you are in the V8 Utes, everyone has to have a nickname.
Yeah. Mm.
And there are some bizarre ones. Scud, yeah, okay, that works for you. 2.5 seasons you've now been involved with motorsport and you'd never done anything else previous to that. Why on earth a Ute? Why a V8 Ute when there are so many other options out there?
Just always driven V8s, generally cars and Utes of course, but I was down in Hamilton at the ITM. They pulled up on the grid there and the whole thing appealed to me, the noise, the look, the guys driving them. I thought they looked like a good bunch of blokes and it was just grabbed me straight away.
So why didn't you start racing earlier then?
I've never really been able to afford to. When I could afford it, I had young kids and my kids are a bit older and sort of doing their own thing. So and I'm in a position that I can afford to do it, and I wanted to do it before I got too old, basically.
Okay, so obviously business, family, you planned them first. And then you got selfish and said, I'm going racing.
Yeah.
And the wife was okay with that?
Yeah, no, she was fine with it. She's actually from a racing pedigree herself, so her family have all been into different forms of motor racing. Her father was a good campaigner, and so she's right behind me. She's probably my number one fan.
How does it work then, stepping into motorsport, having never done it before, ever, and suddenly you decide to go out there in a 1.8 tonne V8 Ute? I mean, first, what were you thinking will be a lot of people's minds, but how do you get yourself into that mode of being able to race? What a learning curve.
Yeah, massive. It was huge. For me, it was about putting together a good team. I got a good manager, Rob Vasey, does an excellent job for me. Gary, my brother-in-law, is sort of my mentor. He's done a lot of different forms of circuit racing, a lot of truck racing. So he helped me out with my lines and bits and pieces. And then
racing trucks, V8 Utes, okay.
Similarity, yeah. And then Blair, my cousin, he's worked on race cars and he's the head racing engineer and sets up the car for me. So putting a good team together was the critical thing, and is the key to success, of course. And then getting out there and just taking a couple of big deep breaths and looking forward and going for it, basically.
Are you a competitive person by nature? Are you the aggro type up the middle, or are you casual down the sidelines, or do you back off because you get a little bit scared? Or was that at the beginning?
Yeah. No, I don't. I am competitive. I'd like to think of myself as being a bit more calculated competitive. I can be aggressive if I need to be, but generally I've worked out that certainly in this form of motorsport, although you do need to be, elbows out, etc., patience does pay off as well. I tend to take, not back out of things, but I'll assess things and work it out for ultimately what I hope is the right result.
Have you found then in that short span of motorsport that sitting in the car and driving as fast as you can and then having to decide if you're going to do something, it's too late to do something? By the time you've thought about it?
Yeah, initially, earlier on, but fortunately as time's gone by, where I felt I was going really fast earlier on, now things tend to happen a lot slower. So I find I've got much more time to react, and I think that's just becoming used to the surroundings and used to the speed. So I tend to feel, even though fortunately my lap times are coming down, I don't feel like I'm going as fast as I used to, but I think that's just being more comfortable in the zone.
Are you an over-analyzer? Do you take too much into it, or you just go with what feels right?
Yeah, I generally go with what feels right.
Okay.
Through most of my life I've relied on gut instinct, and that's generally served me pretty well. I try not to over-analyse anything. So
then what about your team? Do they get into you after a race and fill you with information and knowledge, or do they back off?
No, they're pretty good. They'll fill me with the knowledge I need to know. Rob does a good job in terms of all the pre-preparation and after preparation. Things that need to be done after the race or the meeting. I'm fortunate that my main focus is just to drive.
How angry have you got out there? Do you get angry at all?
Oh, a couple of instances I've got angry. I've walked down pit lane and had a couple of chats to a couple of drivers. I'm certainly not.
So then you do have motorsport in you.
Yeah, I do. But I'm certainly not going to lie down and be driven over the top of. That's for sure.
Okay, what about results? Results so far in 2.5 seasons are pretty good, I understand.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, the first year we finished 11th out of the 13 or 14 utes that ran the season.
So that's a genuine learning curve.
Yeah, that was a learning curve. Last year we were fortunate enough to finish 4th overall in our second year, and right now we're sitting third equal with Spencer in the championship, which is we're halfway through. Okay,
so that means the learning curve has stopped?
Oh, I certainly wouldn't say the learning curve stopped. I don't think you ever stop learning, but. It's probably not as steep as it used to be, So, I certainly wouldn't say I know it all, because I don't. But it's just not as steep as it used to be.
You've obviously been able to bring in business nature. You've spent your life so far building up business, building up a family. How much of that is really needed in motorsport, or is that just people believe that you have to be fully business orientated to do well in motorsport? Do you really need to?
Yeah, I don't think you got to be fully business orientated, but I take a lot of the beliefs and concepts that we apply in our business through to the team, and things like doing it once and doing it right. Just being thorough in your preparation, setting some goals, some individual goals for the weekend, and certainly setting some goals for the championship. And so that's kind of like our little team business plan. Mm-hmm. And most successful companies will say they've got a business plan, short, medium, and long term. So I think there is certainly some synergies between running a good business and running a good race team.
In those goals, short, medium, long term, do you think it can be a hindrance to look too far or too high in motorsport, and not necessarily for you who've started so late in it, but what about the youngsters? Can people look too far ahead, like I'm going to be a Formula 1 champion, and not happen, demoralising?
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. You've got to be realistic in your goals. It certainly doesn't hurt to have high aspirations, but you've got to be realistic with your goals, because anyone can feel quite deflated if they are a goal setter and don't achieve them. So I think it's important to put building blocks in place. Mm.
And then again, just going off your business now, so now you've spent 2.5 seasons in motorsport, the advice you could give to the youngsters who are coming up through it, what advice could you give?
Oh, I think persistence, honesty. If you say you're going to provide something or do something, make sure you do it. Be a person of your word. Be fair, be firm, and keep it clean.
Really all the morals of life, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
In motorsport. Mm. And it is a struggle for a lot of these youngsters coming up through, because they're now getting so many big goals in their life and deciding that they want to be Formula 1 champion or supercar champion or whatever, and they're deciding that they must go through this rigorous regime of seems business, fitness, driving skill. Could it be too much? Is that too much pressure, you feel? And I'm going off your knowledge of life and what you've learned in motorsport so far. Or is it the right way?
Possibly it could be too much, but I think it's just the way the world is now. Top competitors in tennis, golf, all forms of sport seem to be getting younger and younger. They're generally cloned now to become a tennis player or a successful motor racing driver. So I think you've just got to accept that if you want to be the best, you've got to be prepared to do the studies, do the fitness, and do the driving and do the relationship building and all the things that go around getting your backside in the seat of a motor racing vehicle. Okay,
it took you a long time to jump into a race car. Planned though, that's fine. You were unselfish with family and work. Now you can be totally selfish and going out and playing, to the point now that I understand you're going to Bathurst.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a not so much a lifelong dream, but I certainly, as a lot of young Kiwis, watched Bathurst over the years, and once I got into the ute racing, it sort of dawned on me, hey, I could go over there and race with those guys, So I waited a couple of years and tried
rightfully so.
Yeah, tried to earn my stripes, and so to go over there, I didn't want to go over there too soon and make a hash of it. So basically, we've waited a couple of years, and the timing's right now to go and have a crack. So we're gonna do it this year.
So what prep? It must be a huge prep. I mean, you've only just saying you've got over the learning curve of initially learning how to race. Now you're going to have to go to Bathurst. So what's the prep?
It's tapping in with a good team over there. That'll certainly help. My basic preparation is I've been sort of in the gym five days a week, hour a day. Then we've got our own season starting again at the end of September in Taupo. We're going to do a couple of club days in between. So it's really just getting some seat time. And then there's the old trusty simulator, which certainly gives you, as realistic options as you can get from the side of the ditch.
I suppose without the sim, it would be an awful prospect. So technology really is helping.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can drive up the mountain in the simulator and look for all those blind corners and start to get used to what's around the next corner. Obviously, it's not as good as being there, but it's the best thing we can do. And technology these days is pretty realistic.
Once you're successful at Bathurst, you come back to New Zealand, get back into your own racing series. Is there other goals in motorsport for you, or are you just plod along in the utes?
I certainly like to, haven't finished with the utes. I've got a couple more years. I'd like to push around in the old red beast here, but maybe muscle cars, or some form of classic car. Do a few enduros, something like that. I think certainly by that stage I'll be too grey-headed and long in the tooth to be contemplating a super tour or anything like that, as much as it'd be nice to have a drive of one. Certainly they're another league step up from where I'm at.
You could always go to the TLs?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Sometimes I feel like it'd be nice to have a bit more grunt and a bit more grip, but the utes are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I suppose they would be. Well, you've done so well so far in only 2.5 seasons of motorsport, so well done on that. You're about to go to Bathurst. Good luck on that.
Cheers.
And then you're third in the championship standing so far in the utes. So it's all looking onwards and upwards for you from here.
Yeah, I guess you could say it is, and I put it down to having a great team around me and a supportive wife and supportive family, and it's all enjoyable. It's good fun.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about you in the new year and see where you got in the season here and of course at Bathurst. So thanks so much for your time.
And cheers, Footy. Thank you.
Up next, I sit, I chat, and I get a small tour. Good morning. Now, where's that young whippersnapper Simon located? Upstairs, on it.
You're on Cuban time, City. Come on up. You're running late. Good, right? Finally here.
Thanks, mate. Let's go have a chat, eh?
Let's go.
All right. Well, Simon, thanks so much for your time. This is awesome. We're here at your old man's work.
Yes.
And his awesome Evans Museum in the background, and maybe later you can take us for a tour on that. But for now, let's just start with you in motorsport, because you were born into it, weren't you?
Yeah, I sort of didn't really have a choice. Obviously, my dad raced for quite a few years, raced in New Zealand but also overseas. But then also my grandfather rallied as well and had lots to do with motorsports. So Andrew Waite, who was also on Super Tourers, my granddad used to rally, and his granddad Colin Waite was the co-driver. So yeah, motorsport, my family runs deep in the blood.
It certainly does. I mean, you were such a junior when your dad was at the Wellington Street race.
Yes.
And obviously during his accident and the land speed record, and the history is pretty clear on that one. So you and your brother, having that kind of background, your old man racing with Murphy even, you kind of had no choice but to go into motorsport. But did you ever think, actually, I want to go do something else?
He never pressured us into it. So I mean, if I didn't want to do it, I could have just put my hand up at any stage and say, no, I don't want to do it. But one day he sort of just took me down to the go-kart track, and it all sort of started from there, and I had my first go, and probably took me a little bit longer to get into it, but and then it was the same with Mitchell. I think he had his first go in a go-kart when he was 4 years old, and then he started racing when he was on his 6th birthday. So.
And how old were you when you did it?
I was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Is when I started go-karting. So yeah, so it was a couple of years after Dad's land speed accident.
Okay. Did you pester him to take you down? Or was it more like, come on boy, we're off?
I think we just, obviously, Mum probably wasn't too enthused about it because it was after the land speed crash. So I think it was more of we just called in and had a look. And it was just started from there, really.
How well'd you go?
When I first started, I couldn't actually tell you. I probably
Okay.
passed it around. I remember my first race I got lapped. But,
Right.
But yeah, obviously you all got to start somewhere, and even going out, back streets of Manukau, set up drink bottles as a little circuit, and we used to go putter around there, and
Yep.
it was quite funny.
And obviously your mum and dad, your mum came around, but your dad was always there, and he has been ever since, hasn't he? And that's really, for you guys, it's been a full-on family matter. So too, like so many New Zealand guys racing, it's a family matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I was probably spent more weekends with my parents than with my mates, So, but it's cool. We're quite a tight family. We've got a really good relationship within our family, and they've kept us out of trouble, which is nice.
Yeah, at least you're not out partying on the streets till all hours of the night. You're prepping your go-kart and then your next car, which was what? What was it after karting? Or
So-
when did you finish karting? In fact, no, let's go a step back. Where did you end up finally in karting? Did you take any big titles?
Won National Schools Championship, came second in New Zealand Formula 100, third in Rotax for the Nationals. Won a national road racing title, which is on the big street circuits. So,
Yeah.
oh well, not street circuits, big car circuits, which I raced on now. So I won that on the Taupo old circuit, Taupo. And then I moved in to I did a couple races in Formula V. Got third in my first race of that in the 1 hour. So, and then sort of progressed to Formula Ford. I did 2 seasons of Formula Ford. One I ran with a guy called Matt Whitting from Hamilton, who was a very talented go-karter. And then the second year I ran with my brother as my teammate. So the first weekend when we were teammates, me and Mitchell crashed. So, and then we had to sit next to each other on the plane, and we both thought it was each other's fault, which was quite hilarious.
It would be brotherly love, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think the funniest thing was when we got back home, my sister picked us up from the airport because Mum and Dad were driving back, and she didn't know what had happened, so she said, "How did the racing go?"
And she started it all again.
And it was this big awkward silence because it was last lap. I was first, he was second. We both crashed out. So,
Do you bring it up still?
nah, it hasn't really been brought up much.
Would be bad, would it?
It would be bad.
Right, we'll have that as water under the bridge. Okay, so you did a stint Formula Ford, and it's really sad that that's not around anymore.
It is, Formula Ford is such a good breeding field. Look at all the top guys in New Zealand motorsport, but also Australian motorsport as well. It teaches you all about mechanical grip, and look, likes of Greg Murphy, Craig Baird, who else? Kenny Smith has raced them for years, and they all swear by it. It is quite sad that it's obviously not as big now, but I think everything's in a cycle, so it's probably dies off a bit now, but it wouldn't surprise me in a couple of years it's back again.
Or even something a bit more modern, but to give that similar stepping stone, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Because it can't be expected for a kid to jump out of a kart and go to a Toyota series, can it? Not really. It can happen.
It can happen.
But
Yeah.
you do need something in between. And is Formula V, in your mind, a suitable stepping stone?
Yeah, I probably wish I did a little bit more of Formula V. The reason why is it's all about slipstreaming. It probably teaches you a very good racecraft. So because, you race at places like Pukekohe, you can be 6 on the last lap and end up winning the race, So it all teaches you about racecraft. Same in Formula Ford, but just not as exaggerated. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a must,
Okay, so you obviously grew up racing with your brother beside you. He decided a couple of years ago to head overseas. Did you ever think about doing that, or was it nothing really for you over there?
Probably more as just being realistic, But I moved to cars when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And man, if you look at the perfect run, if you go there, on the perfect run, I'd probably be in F1 about now.
Right.
But that's a perfect run. So it's sort of quite, you just got to be realistic in life,
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I'll go the touring car route and see how I can go. And obviously last season we showed we had good speed, so...
Yeah, and you didn't jump straight into a V8 supercar, did you, or Super Tourer? You actually stepped through some cars.
Yeah, I did. So I did 2 seasons of Porsche GT3, ran in the 996, and then we were looking to make the step into the 997, but obviously a bit of the obviously financial crisis that they closed that series, which was obviously a little bit disappointing, but it's just the way life is. And then so I did a season with Tulloch Motorsport in the NZV8s, which was a good learning year. Jason Barguana is my teammate, so I learned a lot off him, and then we stepped across into the V8 Super 2.
That would have been really good, having someone like Bargs sharing a garage with you. Not only fun, but
Yeah.
you would have learned a lot.
Yeah. Jason is a really neat guy, Would go out of your way to help you, but, fun off the track, but also, when it's down to business, he's pretty helpful too.
Yeah, he can be fairly brutal on the track too. He doesn't mess around.
I think I was quite lucky I was his teammate.
Once you finished NZV8s, you decided to have a crack in the Super Tourers, obviously.
Yes.
With your dad's involvement there, Enduro Drive, now full-time drive. What's it like setting yourself up for a day of pinnacle New Zealand motorsport in a Super Tourer? What's the feeling? Do you still get buzzed out, or is it a job?
You definitely get buzzed out for sure, So there's nothing better like you're waking up, like a Saturday morning and knowing that, you're racing at Pukekohe, the car's right on the edge. You have one little mistake and you could be in the wall, So for sure, I'm super excited every day I wake up and I know I'm going to be driving the car. But at the end of the day, it's a job as well, and I need to sort of go out there and do my thing.
You've got to look after sponsors, obviously. They become partners, almost become a family.
Yes.
In your team. What kind of pressures are on you to perform for them, or do you have to ignore the fact that they are there in the background? How does it work? Try and explain it to me.
Well, obviously when you get results, it keeps the sponsors happy and it keeps them coming back, but you just got to shut it out, really. Obviously outside the track, when you're outside the car, you sort of, it's there, but when you're in race mode, you're in race mode. So sort of, you can't be thinking about that, because if you're thinking about that when you're on the track, you're not actually thinking about the job that you're meant to be doing in the car.
Okay. Are you superstitious? Do you have any of these strange rituals you hear about occasionally from various sporting people around the world that have all these weird things that go on? You got any?
I've got a couple.
Really?
So.
Care to share?
No.
They're that bad, are they?
No, they're not that bad, but just a couple of experiences. Obviously, something happened to my brother a couple of years ago and he told someone, and then the season went downhill from there.
Right.
I used to do something which was quite bizarre, and then my mum found out and she hit me up about it, and then I went out in the car and the engine blew up.
Right.
And we didn't have a spare engine, so we couldn't race for the rest of the weekend. So
we will keep it quiet then, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's quite a funny thing, because it sort of just happens, you sort of like how I stumbled across this was I just got home this night and I realised I was wearing my underpants backwards, and then I thought that was alright, and then I did it ever since then. It's so funny, and then so I just on race days I used to do that, and then my mum saw me getting changed one day. She's like, "Oh, they're on backwards." Next minute I'm out there, my engine blew up, and we're out for the weekend.
So you don't use that one anymore?
No, it's safe to say we don't use that one.
Okay.
So it's just sort of, you just stumble across them. You can't.
It's human nature, I guess.
Yeah. So it's quite funny.
But now everyone knows that you were the backwards guy.
Yeah, backwards, yeah.
Where to next? Are you just going to keep going V8 Super Tours? You obviously seem to love it.
Yeah, love V8 Super Tours. Obviously, we're back again for another season. Look at going overseas. Well, we're looking at the ideas at the moment. Mm-hmm. Whether it comes off or not is a different thing.
So what are we talking, a GT, a NASCAR, Dunlop Series, anything you can let out of the bag?
Yeah, I probably don't want to say too much. Nothing's...
Tick all those boxes then.
Yeah, obviously, I'd drive anything overseas,
Yes.
So nearly had to drive it a couple of weeks ago at a big endurance race, but someone bought my drive instead, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
It happens in motorsport.
It does. So no, we're going to look at a few ideas and see if it's worth it or not. So
if you could pick 2 racetracks that you would like to barrel around in whatever vehicle, whether it be a Super Tour, a open wheeler, a Porsche, whatever, which 2 racetracks really smoke your tyres around the world?
Spa, obviously, especially after the weekend watching Spa. I think a Super Tour at Spa would be pretty cool. Going up there, Rouge and long straights, but like long flowing corners. But obviously, Nürburgring is a pretty cool track. Mm-hmm. I've done a couple of laps around there in a little Suzuki Swift, which was quite funny.
A rental car?
It wasn't actually a rental car. It was you could hire the car at the circuit, so I did that because I didn't have a rental car. So if I had a rental car, I would have thrashed that around there. But like Le Mans, I went to Le Mans this year. That was quite a cool circuit. It would be neat to race there.
How much do you feel that, if at all, you are in the shadow of your brother? Do you ever get that feeling? It's a tough question, and you don't have to answer it, but...
No, because it's not like I tried to go his way,
Okay.
Ever since I was in Formula Ford, I said I didn't want to go overseas, so I didn't try to go single seater route, because I thought by the time you get there, I'll be too old and stuff. So
you're quite happy going your own path.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Which is a cool thing.
Yeah, I still make sure he's my little brother.
Yes. I bet there's banter between you, isn't there? If one of you has an incident or doesn't quite perform well in a race, you'll give it to each other, won't you?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still pretty. I reckon I could still beat him in a play fight at home.
That's all that counts.
That's exactly right. That's where the bragging right finishes.
If you can't win the pillow fight and wrestle,
it's more than a pillow fight.
Brothers. Let's go for a tour of this awesome little Evans Museum, because I think there's a fair bit more you can tell us about.
Absolutely.
Because there is a huge photo board up on the wall, and there'll probably be a few little stories there, yeah?
I think so, yeah. We might be able to get some dirt on some people.
All right, we'll go do that.
Sweet.
Mate, what a museum.
Yeah.
You and your old man have set this up really well. I mean, cars galore, but I'm really interested in this photo board.
Yeah.
Because there are stories to tell. Am I right here? And over here we have you as a youngster in a go-kart.
Yeah, mate, this is one of my first go-kart races over here. I had a Valentino Rossi helmet, so it was quite cool.
Really?
Up here, obviously, this is how I know I'll beat Mitchell in a fight.
I see. Did you go any further than the yellow belt?
Oh, we got a little bit further. Not much, though. Racing took over.
That's a nice way to lie to people, so if they try to take you on,
Yep.
you know in the background you're really a double Dan.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
This photo is quite neat. This is actually the day before Dad's land speed crash. Mm-hmm. I'm looking pretty happy,
Yeah.
as you can see.
Yep, the family there with Dad. Okay, right, we got a few more relatives here.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Dad, Ron Salter, Dad had to go over in Waiheke in his dirt car, so over at Waiheke Island, so
Yes.
it's quite cool.
Okay, we obviously know the Lighting Direct Porsche. We've
Yes.
seen plenty of that over the years.
Yeah.
Down here, Big Evans team. Now, if I'm right, and I might be, just correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the team that matches these photos here. If I'm right, it'll be the same era of the Porsche racing, and that is Mr. Greg Murphy in the middle.
So this is Greg Murphy from about 55 years ago. See a bit more acne in that photo?
Yes, and now he's so old that he actually gets helped into the cars.
Yeah.
But he was a teammate of your dad's, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And now you're racing him.
Yeah, so Greg and my dad were meant to race together at Le Mans. So that was in 1996. And then Dad come back here. They qualified. they came back here. Dad did the land speed record, but had the accident and couldn't go back and race. So
Okay, and obviously didn't give you the drive.
no,
That wasn't going to happen back then.
I had preschool.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going through here.
That's actually Dad's first race back
Yes.
after land speed record. So,
Okay.
So this was actually the team when they were actually in Le Mans. So
There's some history here.
Yeah.
There's some big history here, and you are involved with it because you are part of that big clan.
absolutely, yeah.
And it's still going. I mean, we've still got Porsches. This just doesn't seem right here.
No,
There's
primary girls
many,
and race
many
cars.
levels of wrong in this particular photo right here. Okay, we know that, and we'll talk to your dad about that.
He does, yeah.
I think some bad things went on there. Naughty
Dad probably
boy.
doesn't want to talk about those days.
Oh, really? That is a
Alfa Romeo.
Alfa Romeo. Now, why wouldn't he want to? What would embarrass him about that?
Oh, I think he obviously enjoyed his time there, though. Just had just struggled a little bit, you know. So
Okay, all right.
yes, he was actually teammates with the late Ashley Stitchbury.
Mm-hmm.
So then we come back to the Nissan Mobile 500 days. So
Yep.
sat there at podiums and all sorts. And
Okay, so now we need a wall for you, and then another wall for your brother.
yeah,
All right, so all of that, we just push this to one side because it's all about you and your brother now,
Yeah.
not about your dad.
it's amazing. There's still people that are on this wall now, still be on our wall. Like look up here. There's Colin and Richard Giltrap.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Stevie. He still sometimes drives the car to the track, the Super Tourist to the track. So
That is pretty cool.
yeah, so a lot of history.
And I know, I have seen it, I can't see it on this wall, so we do have to make you one. A wall with, I think it's you, Scott McLaughlin, and
Mitch.
here we go, look at that, there it is here, way down here.
So that's back in 2006. We stayed at the McLaughlin's house. We did a kart race. So yeah,
Look at that wall photo. That is some great little bits of history right there.
it is.
It's just starting to show that although you are now, what, you're 23 now,
Yep,
you just almost past it, really.
I am.
You're over your peak. It's,
Gone.
Is
About
it
to
down-
collect my
is it-
gold card.
yeah, is it downhill from here?
Some would say yes.
But you're gonna
But
say you're
Andre
going
Lotterer
racing.
made his Formula 1 debut at Spa at 32, so there's still
Oh, well, there's plenty of time left.
plenty of time.
All right. Well, I think I should bail. Actually, why don't you just leave? You leave. I might just hang around here for a little while,
Sweet.
soak it in, and,
Cool.
and just get a feel. I mean, am I allowed to touch things like trophies?
Absolutely.
Can I touch? Okay. Well,
So we'll
you,
just check your pockets before you leave. That's
Okay,
all.
you go because just.
Where'd you come in that race?
I think
the
I
front.
got. I was a winning driver. Race 1, GP3. Yeah, that's exactly the one. You can go, mate, because I'm just going to just touch a few things. Thanks for watching Behind the Grill. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can follow the show via Facebook and Twitter. See you again soon.